The sun hung low over the cracked asphalt of Route 17, painting the desert horizon in strokes of fiery orange and bruised purple. Logan Pike throttled down his Harley, the engine's rumble fading into a low growl as he pulled into the gravel lot of the Iron Promise Clubhouse. Dust swirled around his boots like ghosts kicked up from forgotten rides. At 35, Logan carried the weight of the road in his scarred knuckles and the faint lines etched around his steel-grey eyes, reminders of brothers lost and promises etched in blood. The club was his anchor, a fortress of leather and loyalty amid the sprawling emptiness of the Southwest. But tonight, as the other bikes lined up like silent sentinels, something felt off. A shadow flickered in his rearview mirror, small and persistent, trailing him from the last gas station miles back. He killed the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the distant howl of coyotes. The clubhouse door creaked open, spilling warm light and the murmur of voices from inside. Jax, the grizzled vice president, laughing over a story from their last run. Maria, the club's unofficial medic, sorting through a box of supplies. Logan swung his leg off the bike, his cooter settling heavy on his shoulders, the Iron Promise patch gleaming under the fading light. That's when he saw her. A girl, no more than 8, standing at the edge of the lot. Her faded sundress fluttered in the breeze, dirt smudged on her bare knees, and her dark hair tangled like she'd been running through thorns. She clutched a small backpack, eyes wide but not with fear, more like determination carved from stone. How had she followed him all this way? On foot? The thought twisted in his gut. Kids didn't wander into places like this, not without reason. Logan froze, his hand hovering near the holstered pistol at his hip, habit from too many border skirmishes. The lot was no playground. It was a den of outcasts, ex-soldiers, and men who'd stared down worse than shadows. "Hey, kid," he called, voice rough from the wind-whipped miles. "You lost? This ain't no place for—" She didn't flinch. Instead, she took a step forward, then another, weaving past the bikes with the quiet focus of someone who'd crossed invisible lines before. The other members spilled out onto the porch, drawn by the unfamiliar sight. Jax's hand went to his beard. Maria's eyes narrowed in concern. Whispers rippled. "Who the hell is she? Some drifter's kid." She reached the center of the lot, stopping just short of the clubhouse steps. Up close, Logan saw the exhaustion in her small frame, the way her shoulders sagged, yet her chin lifted defiantly. No tears, no pleas. Just those eyes, mirroring something achingly familiar, like echoes from a half-remembered dream. "You followed me," he said, crouching to her level, the gravel biting into his knees. The air smelled of hot metal and sagebrush, the evening chill creeping in. "From where? Your folks know you're out here." The girl, Nora, though he didn't know her name yet, tilted her head, studying him as if measuring his worth. Without a word, she shrugged off her backpack and unzipped it with deliberate care. The clubhouse fell silent, the weight of curiosity pressing down like an incoming storm. She pulled out a small, weathered box, its edges frayed from years of handling. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, lay a medallion, military issue, tarnished brass catching the last rays of sun. Logan's breath caught. The engraving wasn't just any symbol, it was the Iron Promise emblem, intertwined with a dog tag number he knew by heart. Evan Pike, his brother. Given up for dead 5 years ago on a Black Ops mission gone south. No body recovered, just whispers of betrayal and desert sands swallowing secrets whole. Nora placed the medallion on the weathered picnic table at the lot's edge, the metal clinking softly against the wood. It was a sound that echoed louder than any engine roar, pulling every soul in the club closer. Jax leaned in, his face paling under the stubble. "What the—" "Logan, that's—" Logan couldn't speak. His fingers trembled as he reached for it, the cool weight familiar, like touching a ghost. Evan had worn it through their childhood scraps. their enlistment oaths, and that final ride before deployment. "A promise," Evan had said once, clapping Logan on the back. "We look out for our own, blood or chosen." The club had been their vow after the war. Ironclad, unbreakable. The girl watched him, her voice finally breaking the hush, small but steady. "Grandma said to find you, the brothers. He told her if anything happened." She trailed off, glancing at the medallion as if it held the rest. Logan's mind raced. Evan had a kid, hidden away. The implications crashed over him like a rogue wave. The missions, the lies, the life they'd all buried under layers of denial. Maria knelt beside Nora, offering a gentle hand. "Sweetheart, what's your name? Where's your grandma now?" Nora's eyes flickered with a pain too old for her years. "She's gone. Last week. Cough took her quick. This was all she left me. Find the iron promise. Tell them about Daddy." The words hung in the air, heavy as the desert night descending. Logan stood slowly, the medallion clutched in his fist. Around him the club stirred, murmurs turning to resolve. Jax nodded, his voice low. "Evan's blood. That makes her ours." But Logan saw the storm brewing in their eyes, questions about the past, threats from shadows that might still hunt Evan's legacy. This tiny girl had walked into their world, unarmed and unafraid, dropping a bomb that could shatter everything. As stars pricked the velvet sky, Logan placed a calloused hand on Nora's shoulder. The touch was tentative, like handling fragile dynamite. "You're safe here, kid. We got you." But inside, the old promise ignited, a vow to protect what was left of his brother, no matter the cost. The clubhouse lights flickered on, casting long shadows across the lot. Engines would roar again soon, but this ride, it was personal. A father's ghost demanding justice, a daughter's trust hanging by a thread. And in the quiet that followed, Logan knew some debts never faded. They just waited for the right spark to burn. If you're watching this and feeling that pull, the kind that whispers of lost brothers and unbreakable bonds, drop a comment below. Tell us where you're tuning in from and what time it is there right now. These stories of northern grit and southern heart travel far. We want to know when they reach you. The clubhouse air thickened with the scent of stale coffee and engine oil, the kind that clung to everything like an old regret. Logan led Nora inside, her small hand slipping into his without hesitation, as if she'd been waiting for this anchor her whole life. The wooden floors creaked under their steps, echoing the unease rippling through the room. Jax paced near the bar, his massive frame casting jagged shadows from the hanging lanterns, while Maria guided Nora to a worn leather couch, draping a blanket over her shoulders. The medallion sat on the scarred oak table like a sentinel, its brass surface now catching the warm glow of the overhead bulbs. Whispers from the corners, old-timers nursing beers, mechanics wiping grease from their hands, hushed as Logan cleared his throat, the sound rough like gravel under tires. "Everyone, listen up," he said, voice steady but laced with the gravel of unspoken grief. Eyes turned to him, a circle of leather vests and tattooed arms, tightening like a noose. "This is Nora, daughter of Evan." The name dropped like a spark on dry tinder. Murmurs erupted. Evan, the ghost who'd ridden with them through hellish patrols in forgotten valleys. The brother who'd vanished into the haze of a classified op 5 years back. No flags, no coffins. Just a folded letter from command and a hole in the club's heart. Jack stopped pacing, his beard twitching as he leaned on the table. "Evan's girl? How?" Nora shrank a fraction under the stairs, but her gaze held firm on Logan, as if he were the only map she trusted. Logan sank into a chair across from her, the wood groaning in protest. Up close, the resemblances hit harder. Evan's jawline in miniature, the same stubborn set to her mouth. "Tell us everything, kid, from the start." Nora's fingers twisted the blanket's edge, her voice emerging soft but unyielding, like wind through canyon rocks. Daddy was gone before I remember much. Grandma raised me in a little house by the river. She had stories about the rides, the promises, said he wore this always. She nodded toward the medallion. For luck, for family. Maria handed her a glass of water, her nurse's instincts kicking in, but Nora waved it off. Grandma got sick last winter, whispered at the end. Find the iron promise. They're good men. Tell Logan about the letter. A letter? Logan's pulse quickened, the room's heat pressing in. Evan had mentioned nothing of a child, no hints during those late-night calls from the sandbox. The missions had been shadows. Clandestine runs across blurred borders, deals with suits who traded lives like poker chips. Betrayal had tainted the air back then. Whispers of a setup that left Evan exposed. Logan had buried the rage, channeling it into the club's code. Protect your own, no questions. But now, this girl was proof Evan had carved out a secret life, one the club might have unknowingly endangered. Jax rubbed his neck, glancing at the others. We searched for him, Logan. Months on the road, shaking trees. If there's a letter. The door banged open then, cutting the tension like a knife through fog. It was Reyes, the club's scout, his face flushed from the desert chill, helmet tucked under his arm. He'd been out on perimeter watch, eyes sharp for any tales from the old ops. Boss, we got company inbound. Black SUVs, unmarked. 2 miles out, hugging the highway. The room froze, the air electric with old instincts. Logan's hand instinctively went to his sidearm, the weight reassuring. Not cops, too sleek, too quiet. Remnants from Evan's world, collectors tying up loose ends. Nora's eyes widened, but she didn't cry. Instead, she scooted closer to Logan, her backpack clutched like a shield. Get her to the back room, Maria urged, already moving. Logan nodded, scooping Nora up without a word. Light as a promise unkept. The club's inner sanctum was a bunker of sorts, reinforced walls lined with maps and faded photos of rides past. He set her down amid the stacks of old ledgers, the air cooler here, scented with dust and leather polish. Stay put. We're family now. That means we handle this. She nodded, whispering, Grandma said you'd come through, like Daddy would. The words pierced him, stirring the embers of that long-ago oath. Brothers in arms, blood or bond, we'd ride through fire. Outside, engines snarled to life in the lot, the iron promise roaring awake. Jax coordinated from the porch, voices low and clipped, flank positions, signal lights. Logan joined them, the medallion now tucked in his pocket. A talisman against the encroaching dark. The SUVs crested the rise, headlights slicing the night like accusations. They pulled up slow, doors opening to reveal suits in crisp lines, badges glinting under the moon. Federal by the look, clean-shaven, eyes cold as mission briefs. The lead agent stepped forward, hands visible, but his gaze swept the bikes like he was counting threats. Logan Pike, the man called, voice carrying over the idling motors. We need to talk. About Evan and the girl. Logan's jaw tightened, the club's line forming behind him, unyielding, a wall of vests and resolve. No badges would breach this without answers. The agent held up a folder, its edges crisp against the grit. Classified assets, loose ends. She's part of it. Jack snorted, stepping up. She's family. You want her, you go through us. The standoff stretched, tension coiling like a spring, the desert wind whispering warnings. Logan felt Nora's story burning in his chest, a legacy of silence broken, a promise demanding fulfillment. Inside, hidden from the glare, Nora traced the medallion's outline in her mind, waiting. The club's hum vibrated through the walls, a heartbeat of loyalty. But Logan knew this was just the spark. Shadows from Evan's past were stirring, and with Nora in the crosshairs, the ride ahead would test every vow they'd sworn. Justice wasn't in guns or chases, it was in standing firm, uncovering truths buried deep. As the agents' radios crackled, Logan met their stare. Start talking, or ride out empty. The night held its breath, the first threads of redemption weaving through the dark. And now I invite you to leave in the comments where you're watching from and the exact hour you heard this story. We wish to know how far these northern confessions travel and at what moments they reach you. The agent's words sliced through the night like a cold blade. Hanging in the charged air between the rumbling bikes and the sleek SUVs, Logan stood firm at the head of the club's line, his boots planted in the gravel as if rooted to the earth's core. The desert wind tugged at his kuta, carrying the faint tang of exhaust and distant rain, while the moon cast elongated shadows that danced like uneasy spectres across the lot. Behind him, the Iron Promise brothers formed an unbreakable phalanx. Jax to his right, fists clenched, Reyes scanning the tree line with hawk-like eyes, Maria hovering near the clubhouse door, her silhouette a quiet sentinel. Nora was safe inside, but the weight of her trust pressed on Logan's chest, heavier than any armor. "Loose ends," Logan echoed, his voice low and edged with gravel, stepping forward just enough to close the gap without inviting a fight. The lead agent, tall, with a jaw like chiseled granite and eyes that betrayed no warmth, didn't flinch. He flipped open the folder, the pages rustling like dry leaves in the breeze. Evan Pike was deep in operations that don't see daylight, assets scattered, some with complications. The girl is one. We need to verify her status, secure any intel she might hold. His tone was clinical, as if discussing cargo rather than a child who'd just lost her world. The other agents fanned out subtly, hands near holsters, their suits ill-suited to the dust that now clung to their polished shoes. Jax let out a bark of laughter, sharp and devoid of humor, his beard catching the glow from the porch light. "Verify? She's 8, not a damn file. Evan's blood runs in her veins. That's all the status she needs." The brothers murmured agreement, engines idling louder now, a low thunder that vibrated through the ground. Logan felt the medallion in his pocket, its edges digging into his thigh like a reminder of oaths sworn under firelit skies. Evan had vanished on a run gone wrong, whispers of double crosses by brass who valued secrets over lives. If these suits were cleaning house, Nora was a thread they wanted snipped. But Logan had buried too many ghosts to let another rise without a fight. Not one wearing his brother's face. The agent tilted his head unfazed, his gaze locking onto Logan's with the precision of a targeting laser. "This isn't a request, Pike. We have jurisdiction. Evan's mission involved parties that don't take kindly to unfinished business. The medallion, it's evidence. Hand her over, and we walk." A flicker of something, regret, calculation, crossed his features, gone as quick as a desert mirage. Logan's mind raced back to those fragmented calls from Evan, voices crackling over bad lines. "Watch your back, brother. Some promises get twisted." Had Evan hidden Nora to shield her from this exact storm? The club had moved on, building their code from the ashes, but legacies like this didn't fade. They fermented, demanding reckoning. From the clubhouse, a soft creak echoed. Nora, perhaps shifting in the back room, her presence a silent pull on Logan's resolve. He glanced at Jax, who gave a subtle nod, the kind forged in foxholes and midnight rides. No guns drawn, not yet. The Iron Promise fought with words first, honor second, fists only when the line blurred. "Jurisdiction don't mean jack here," Logan said, his tone measured, like metering out fuel on a long haul. "This is our ground, Evan's ground. You want the girl, tell us what really took him. No more shadows." The air thickened, the standoff stretching taut as a bowstring. One of the agents shifted, radio whispering static, but the leader raised a hand, holding them back. For a long moment, silence reigned, broken only by the coyotes' distant yips and the soft hiss of cooling engines. Then the agent sighed, a sound almost human amid the machinery of protocol. Evan wasn't lost to chance. Inside a leak, someone sold coordinates. He went dark to protect attachments like her. He nodded toward the clubhouse, the admission slipping out like a crack in armor. Logan's blood ran cold. Attachments meant Nora, meant a life Evan had carved in secret, away from the club's roar and the war's echo. The folder rustled again as the agent pulled a single photo, blurry, grainy, showing Evan in fatigues, cradling a newborn in a nondescript room. He left instructions. If things went south, find the promise. But we can't let that medallion circulate. It ties to active threats. Jax leaned in, his voice a rumble. Threats like you boys? The brothers tensed, but Logan held up a hand, his mind piecing the puzzle. Evan's disappearance wasn't just bad luck. It was a shield for something bigger, a promise to safeguard his own. Nora's arrival wasn't coincidence. It was the echo of that vow, reaching across years and graves. She's not going anywhere, Logan stated, final as a gavel. But if you're cleaning up, start with the truth. Who leaked? Who left him out there? The agent's eyes narrowed, weighing the cost of more words against retreat. In the end, he snapped the folder shut, the sound echoing like a door slamming on half-truths. Stand down for now, the leader said, signaling his team. The SUV's doors clicked open, engines humming to life with reluctant precision. As they pulled away, tail lights fading into the black ribbon of highway, the club exhaled collectively, the tension uncoiling like a released spring. Logan turned back to the clubhouse, the gravel crunching underfoot, the night air now laced with the promise of dawn's first light. Inside, Nora sat cross-legged on the floor, sketching idly on a scrap of paper with a borrowed pencil. Simple lines, forming a bike, a man, a girl. She looked up as he entered, her eyes searching his face. They gone? For tonight, Logan replied. Kneeling beside her, the medallion now in his palm, shared like a secret. Maria brought stew from the kitchen, its steam carrying notes of herbs and warmth, a small anchor in the uncertainty. The club gathered loosely, voices low as they planned. Scouts on rotation, calls to old contacts from Evan's era. Jax clapped Logan's shoulder. We ride this out together. For him. For her. Nora ate quietly, but her presence wove through them all, a thread of redemption pulling at frayed edges. Logan watched her, seeing Evan's fire in her quiet strength, and felt the old promise stir deeper, not just survival, but justice, the kind that honored the fallen by lifting the living. As the first hints of grey touched the horizon, painting the lot in muted silvers, Logan stepped out for air, the cool bite chasing away the night's heat. The medallion hung heavy around his neck now, borrowed from the past to forge a path forward. Shadows lingered, agents, leaks, threats unnamed. But so did the club's bond, ironclad and unyielding. Nora's arrival had cracked open doors long sealed, inviting the storm in. Yet in that vulnerability lay power, a chance to fulfill what Evan couldn't, to stand as the family chosen in the face of corruption's tide. The engines would fire again soon, but this ride was for truths unearthed, for a little girl's trust earned, and for the honor that bound them all. The desert whispered on, patient witness to vows remade. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon like a hesitant promise, gilding the clubhouse roof in soft gold and chasing the night's chill from the air. Logan leaned against the porch railing, the wood rough under his palms, still warm from the hours of tension. The lot lay quiet now, bikes lined up like sleeping guardians, their chrome dulled by dew. Inside, Nora had finally drifted off on the couch, her small chest rising and falling in the rhythm of exhausted trust, the blanket Maria had tucked around her slipping slightly. The medallion rested on the table beside her, a silent vow amid the clutter of coffee mugs and scattered maps. Logan rubbed his eyes, the weight of the agent's words settling like dust after a storm. Evan's mission, the leak, the hidden life. It wasn't just a ghost story anymore. It was a map to buried truths, with Nora at its heart. Jax joined him outside, lighting a cigarette with a flick of his Zippo, the flame briefly illuminating the lines of worry etched into his face. The smoke curled upward, mingling with the scent of sage and cooling earth. "Those suits will be back," Jax said, exhaling slowly, his voice a low rumble that blended with the awakening birdsong. "Feds don't fold easy, and if Evans got enemies still breathing—" He trailed off, staring at the highway where the SUVs had vanished hours before. Logan nodded, the motion heavy. They'd stood their ground last night, but words only bought time. The club had to move, scout old contacts, dig into Evans' shadows without drawing more heat. For Nora, who'd walked into their world with nothing but a trinket and a name, they owed more than defense. They owed redemption, the kind that pieced together a shattered legacy. Maria emerged from the door, wiping her hands on a dish towel, her expression a mix of maternal steel and quiet resolve. She'd patched up enough club wounds to know when a fight was brewing deeper than skin. She's out cold, but she'll need real food soon, and answers. She glanced back inside, where the first rays filtered through the windows, casting warm pools on the floor. Logan followed her gaze, the sight of Nora stirring something primal in him, a brother's echo, a father's absence he'd never claimed. "We'll get 'em," he murmured, more to himself than the others. The air hummed with unspoken plans. Reyes already revving his scout bike for a dawn run to the river town where Nora's grandma had lived, chasing threads of that final whisper. The club wasn't just riders. They were keepers of oaths, and this one burned fresh. As the sun climbed higher, painting the desert in vibrant hues of red rock and endless blue, the clubhouse stirred to life. Old-timers like Hank, with his war stories tattooed in faded ink across his arms, brewed coffee strong enough to strip paint, the aroma cutting through the lingering diesel scent. Nora woke with a start, blinking against the light, her dark hair tousled like Evans had been after a long ride. She sat up, clutching the blanket, eyes darting to Logan, as if confirming he hadn't vanished like the others in her life. "Morning, kid," he said, sliding a mug of warm milk her way. Maria's touch, sweetened just enough. Nora took it, her small hands wrapping around the ceramic, steam rising like a veil between them. "Did they come back?" Logan crouched to her level, the floorboards creaking under his weight, his voice steady as an engine at idle. "Not yet, but we're ready. Tell me more about Grandma's house, anything that might help." Nora sipped, her gaze distant, pulling memories from the depths. It was by the water, willows hanging low. She had a box under the bed, letters from Daddy, sealed, said not to open till I found you. The words landed soft but seismic, stirring the room's quiet hum. Jax paused mid-stride, exchanging a look with Logan. Letters, plural. Not just the medallion's promise, but a trail of secrets Evan had left, breadcrumbs against the dark. Reyes returned by mid-morning, his bike kicking up dust as he pulled in, face grim under the helmet's shadow. The lot filled with the scent of hot gravel and rubber, brothers gathering as he dismounted. Town's quiet, but the old lady's place is picked clean. Drawers emptied, locks jimmied. Someone got there first. Murmurs rippled through the group, tension coiling like a spring. Not coincidence. The agents, or worse, the leak's remnants tying off ends before the club could. Logan's fist clenched. The medallion's chain now looped around his neck, hidden under his shirt like a hidden blade. Nora overheard, her milk forgotten, eyes wide with the dawning fear of a world closing in. They took them? The letters? Maria knelt beside her, a hand on her shoulder, the touch grounding as the club's medic instincts. "We'll find out what they said. You're not alone in this." But Logan saw the fracture in Nora's composure, the first crack in her stone-carved determination. He stepped forward, voice cutting through the rising voices. "Gear up. We ride to the river. Quiet. No flags. Reyes leads. I follow with her." The brothers nodded, the rhythm of purpose sinking them, vests zipped, engines checked, the air thrumming with restrained power. Nora stood, backpack slung over one shoulder, her chin lifting in quiet mimicry of the men around her. "I go too. Grandma said to tell you everything." The convoy rolled out under the climbing sun, a low growl echoing off the canyon walls, dust trailing like a banner of resolve. Logan rode point with Nora behind him on a sidecar rig Maria had jury-rigged, her arms wrapped tight around his waist, the wind whipping her hair. The highway blurred into scrubland, the river's glint appearing like a silver vein in the distance. Memories flooded Logan, Evan's laugh on similar runs, promises swapped over campfires, the war's scars binding them tighter than blood. This ride wasn't vengeance, it was reclamation, pulling Nora from the edges into the fold, honoring the vow Evan couldn't finish. They reached the river house by noon, the willows drooping heavy in the heat, their leaves whispering secrets to the lazy current. The place was a shell, windows boarded, door hanging ajar, the air inside stale with abandonment. Nora led the way, her steps sure despite the ache in Logan's chest at the sight of her navigating loss so young. In the bedroom, the bed frame stood empty, mattress slashed, but Nora knelt by the floorboard, prying it up with small fingers. Dust motes danced in the sunlight, slanting through cracks, revealing a hidden nook. Tucked inside, a single envelope, yellowed but intact, Evan's handwriting scrawled across it. "For Logan, if I don't make it." Logan's hands shook as he took it, the paper crackling like thunder in the quiet room. Nora watched, breath held. As he broke the seal, words spilled out. Evan's final accounting, the mission's betrayal, names in high places, a directive to protect his light, Nora, through the promise. No accusations, just truth, raw and unfiltered. "Keep her safe. You're the brother I chose." Tears pricked Logan's eyes, unbidden, the river's murmur outside a somber chorus. Jax read over his shoulder, his face hardening. "This changes the game. We got targets now." As they rode back, the sun dipping toward afternoon gold, Nora leaned into Logan, her voice carried on the wind. "He believed in you." The words wove through him, mending frayed threads of guilt and grief. The club had a path now, confront the corruption that stole Evan, shield the girl who'd brought it all home. But shadows lengthened with the day, the agent's threat a distant rumble. Loyalty wasn't loud, it was this, the quiet ride into the unknown, promises fulfilled 1 mile at a time. Back at the clubhouse, as engines cooled and the group huddled over the letter's revelations, Logan felt the shift, a family forged anew, Nora's place etched in their code. The desert stretched endless, but so did their resolve, a beacon against the encroaching dark. If this chapter stirred something in you, the grit of unspoken vows and the pull of chosen kin, hit that like button. Your support keeps these tales rolling, chapter by chapter. The clubhouse thrummed with a subdued energy as the afternoon sun slanted through the dusty windows, casting elongated beams that danced with motes of airborne grit. Logan sat at the scarred oak table, the letter spread before him like a battlefield map, its edges curling slightly in the dry heat. The words Evan's hand had scratched out years ago now burned fresh. Names of brass who'd greenlit the betrayal, coordinates of a drop gone sour, and a final plea wrapped in brotherly steel. Protect the light, Nora. The air carried the faint bitterness of cooling coffee, mingled with the earthy tang of the letter's aged paper, a scent that pulled Logan back to foxholes and whispered oaths under starless skies. Around the table, the iron promise inner circle leaned in, Jax's massive forearms braced on the wood, Reyes tracing a finger along a sketched route on a napkin, Maria watching Nora with quiet vigilance from the kitchen archway. Nora perched on a stool nearby, her backpack at her feet like a loyal shadow, nibbling on a sandwich Maria had pressed into her hands. Her eyes, sharp as Evan's had been, flicked between the men and the letter, absorbing the gravity without a word. The discovery at the river house had cracked open more than floorboards. It had unearthed a vein of corruption snaking through the underbelly of the operations that had claimed her father. Logan folded the letter carefully, tucking it into his vest pocket beside the medallion, the combined weight a talisman against the rising tide. "These names," he said, voice low and measured, like revving an engine before a long haul. "They point to DC shadows, but closer, old liaison in the border towns. Reyes, you know the drill. Quiet recon, no lights." Reyes nodded, his scout's instincts sharpening, the faint scar on his cheek pulling tight as he grinned faintly. "On it. I'll hit the cantina circuit by dusk. Folks talk if you buy the right drinks." The plan unfurled in clipped exchanges, the club's rhythm sinking like pistons in a well-tuned machine. No bravado, just the steady pulse of loyalty forged in loss. Jax cracked his knuckles, the sound echoing softly in the room. "And if those suits circle back? We don't hand over the kid or the truth." Evan's promise was clear. We finish what he started. Nora's gaze met Logan's then, a silent question in her eyes, and he offered a nod. The gesture small, but laden with the honor of chosen kin. She'd bridge the gap between ghost and ground, forcing them to reckon with debts long deferred. As the sun dipped lower, painting the lot in amber hues, Logan stepped out with Nora, trailing close, her small boots scuffing the gravel in mimicry of his stride. The desert air cooled, carrying whispers of creosote and the distant rumble of thunderheads gathering on the horizon. He knelt by his Harley, checking the chains with practiced hands, the metal cool and reassuring under his calluses. "You ever been on a bike before?" he asked, glancing up. Nora shook her head, but her chin lifted with that familiar defiance. "Grandma said Daddy rode fast, to keep bad things away." The words twisted in Logan's gut, evoking memories of Evan leaning into curves, wind tearing at his jacket, always one step ahead of the chaos. "We'll go steady," Logan promised, lifting her onto the sidecar rig, securing the straps with care. "Hold on tight. We're family now. That means we ride together." The engine roared to life, a deep vibration that resonated through bone and resolve, and the convoy peeled out, 5 bikes in loose formation, dust plume rising like a signal flare. They veered off the highway onto back roads, the landscape blurring into a tapestry of red rock and sparse juniper, the river's silver thread glinting far below. Logan's mind churned over the letter's revelations. A colonel named Hargrove, ties to private contractors who'd profited from the leaks, turning brothers into bait for bigger games. It wasn't just Evan's end, it was a web that could ensnare the club, painting them as loose cannons in a system rigged for silence. But justice here wasn't a blaze of fury, it was the slow burn of truth, exposing rot without becoming it. Nora's arms tightened around him as they crested a rise, her warmth a quiet anchor against the wind's bite. Reyes led them to a nondescript outpost on the edge of a forgotten trading post, the kind of place where neon flickered weakly against the encroaching dusk and the air hummed with the low buzz of ceiling fans. They parked in the shadows of a sagging awning, the scent of sizzling peppers and spilled beer wafting from the open door. Inside, the cantina was a haze of lantern light and murmured conversations, locals nursing drinks at scarred counters. Reyes slipped in first, blending like smoke, while Logan kept Nora close at a corner booth, her eyes wide but steady as she watched the room's ebb and flow. "This is how we learn," he whispered, sliding her a soda from the bar, "without raising dust." Hours stretched, the sky outside deepening to indigo, stars pricking through like distant promises. Reyes returned as the first rain patted the tin roof, his expression a mask of controlled storm. He slid into the booth, voice pitched low over the downpour's rhythm. Hargrove's still kicking, retired to a ranch up north, but whispers say he's got pull with the feds sniffing around Evan. The leak, traced to a handler who flipped for cash. They think the medallion's a key to more docks, hidden safe. Logan's jaw set, the pieces slotting into place. Evan's secret life wasn't just protection. It was a safeguard against the machine that had chewed him up. Nora leaned forward, her voice cutting through the rain's drum. Daddy knew. The letters said to trust the promise, not them. The weight of her words settled over them, a moral compass in the dim light. Jax, who'd been posted outside, ducked in then, water beading on his beard. Perimeter clear, but we've got a tail. Same SUV vibe, hanging back on the ridge. Tension coiled anew, the cantina's warmth turning claustrophobic. Logan stood, signaling the exit, his hand enveloping Nora's as they moved. Outside, the rain slicked the lot, turning gravel to mud that sucked at their boots, the air electric with ozone and urgency. Engines fired in the downpour, headlights cutting veils of water as the convoy surged forward, weaving through arroyos swollen with flash flood. Back at the clubhouse by midnight, soaked but unbroken, the group huddled under the porch's overhang. The letter now joined by Reyes's scribbled notes. Maria dried Nora's hair with a towel, her touches gentle, weaving the girl deeper into the fold. We confront Hargrove, Logan decided, the rain a steady backdrop to his resolve. Not with guns, with proof. Evan's words, our stand for the light he left. Nods rippled through the circle, the club's bond tightening like leather under strain. Nora yawned, exhaustion etching her young face, but she met Logan's eyes with quiet fire. Like a promise? Like a promise, he echoed, the words a vow remade. The storm raged on, lightning fracturing the sky, but inside, embers of redemption glowed. Loyalty against corruption, a father's legacy lifted by hands scarred but steady. Shadows loomed, the ranch a horizon away. But the ride ahead carried the weight of honor, silent and profound. As thunder rolled, Logan felt Evan's presence in the downpour, urging them forward, one truthful mile at a time. The desert, washed clean, held its breath for the reckoning to come. The rain had eased to a persistent drizzle by the time the convoy crested the final ridge, the ranch sprawling below like a fortress carved from the storm-washed earth. Logan's Harley cut through the mist, its headlights slicing veils of gray, the engine's low thrum, a steady heartbeat against the night's hush. Nora rode in the sidecar, bundled in a spare jacket too big for her frame. Her face pale, but set with the quiet resolve that echoed Evan's unyielding spirit. The air hung heavy with the scent of wet sage and churned mud, the horizon bruised purple, where lightning still flickered like unresolved grudges. Jax flanked Logan's left, Reyes on the right, their bikes forming a wedge of leather and chrome, silent warriors approaching not for war but for the truth that could mend fractured oaths. The ranch gate loomed ahead, wrought iron twisted into barbed motifs, flanked by floodlights that buzzed faintly in the damp. No guards visible, but shadows shifted in the outbuildings, hints of watchfulness that set Logan's instincts prickling. He killed the engine at the fence line, the sudden quiet amplifying the drip of water from his helmet and the distant lowing of cattle unsettled by the weather. Nora stirred, her small voice cutting the stillness. This the place where the bad men hide. Logan dismounted, offering her a hand down, his boots sinking into the soft ground. Could be, stay close. We're here for words, not echoes of the past. But the medallion around his neck felt heavier now, a pulse of Evan's warning against the chill seeping through his vest. They moved as a unit, the club's steps measured on the gravel drive, rain pattering on their shoulders like impatient fingers. Jax carried the letter in a waterproof pouch, its contents a blade honed for precision. Names, dates, the leak's trail leading straight to Colonel Hargrove's door. The main house rose ahead, a two-story sprawl of adobe and timber, windows glowing amber against the gloom. A porch swing creaked in the breeze, empty but for a forgotten lantern swaying like a beckoning ghost. Logan rapped on the heavy oak door, the knock echoing hollow, his free hand resting near his belt, not drawing, but ready for the moral line they walked. Nora pressed against his leg, her warmth a reminder of stakes beyond revenge, a child's future, a brother's absolution. The door opened with a groan, revealing Hargrove himself, mid-60s, broad-shouldered in a flannel shirt that strained against old muscle, his face a map of weathered lines and eyes sharp as rusted wire. He took in the group without surprise, the air between them thick with the aroma of pipe tobacco and oiled leather from within. "Pike," he said, voice gravelly from years of barked orders, stepping aside just enough to invite scrutiny. "Figured you'd come calling after the river stunt and bring in the package." His gaze flicked to Nora, not with malice, but a calculated appraisal that twisted Logan's gut. No denial, no bluster, just the weariness of a man who'd traded souls for silence. Inside, the ranch house enveloped them in warmth, a stone fireplace crackling with mesquite logs, casting flickering shadows across walls lined with faded commendations and mounted antlers. The scent of simmering stew wafted from the kitchen, domestic against the undercurrent of tension. Hargrove gestured to a heavy table by the fire, chairs scraping as the group settled. Logan at the head with Nora beside him, Jackson Reyes flanking like sentinels. Maria had stayed back at the clubhouse, her role to guard the home front, but her absence left a void filled by the girl's steady presence. "Talk," Hargrove said, sinking into his seat, hands folded like a poker player assessing the pot. "You've got Evan's ghost whispering. Make it count." Logan slid the letter across the table, the paper whispering against wood, rain tapping the windows like an impatient audience. "He named you, the leak, the setup, said you greenlit the double cross for contractor's cut. Left him out there to bury the mess." Hargrove's eyes scanned the page, the firelight playing across his features, revealing a flicker of something raw. Regret, perhaps, or the echo of choices that scarred deeper than shrapnel. Nora watched him, her fingers tracing the table's grain, the room's heat pressing in as silence stretched. Outside, thunder grumbled low, a reminder of storms not yet past. The colonel leaned back, the chair creaking under his weight, his voice emerging measured, like confessions pulled from deep wells. "Evan was the best I had. Sharp, loyal, but the op? It was bigger than one man. Arms flows, border games with players who don't lose sleep over pawns." He paused, glancing at Nora, the first softening in his gaze. "He found out about the girl early, pulled strings to hide her, even from me. The medallion? He etched it himself. A signal for you boys. Thought the promise could shield what the system couldn't." Jax shifted, his voice a rumble. "Shield? You hung him out for what? Promotions? Cash?" Hargrove's jaw tightened, but he didn't rise. "Survival. The leak was mine to plug, but it spiraled. I covered tracks to keep worse from spilling. Evan's death? On me? But taking the kid, that's not the play." Logan's pulse thrummed, the fire's warmth battling the ice in his veins. This wasn't absolution. It was a partial map, truths unearthed, but laced with evasion. Nora spoke then, her voice small but piercing the haze. "Grandma said you knew about Daddy's light. Why didn't you help?" The question hung, innocent as dawn, forcing Hargrove's facade to crack. He rubbed his temple, the gesture human amid the mantelpiece medals. "I tried. Sent feelers after he went dark. But the feds circling your clubhouse, that's blowback from the contractors. They want the medallion destroyed, any loose thread snipped. Evan's letter names them too, deeper than me." The admission shifted the air like a key turning in a long locked door. Logan leaned forward, the medallion catching the fire's glow as he pulled it free. Then help us end it. No more shadows for her. Hargrove studied the emblem, memories flickering in his eyes, rides shared, oaths in the sand. All right, I've got contacts, old files. But it means riding into the viper's nest. DC fringes, no badges, just truth. Jax nodded slowly, the club's code aligning with this uneasy alliance. Justice not through force, but revelation, honoring Evan's light by illuminating the dark. As the rain intensified outside, drumming the roof like urgent Morse, Nora reached for Logan's hand under the table, her trust a quiet anchor. The colonel rose, pulling a hidden drawer from a sideboard, revealing a stack of sealed dossiers. Evan's backups, perhaps, or Hargrove's own reckoning. The fire popped, embers swirling upward, mirroring the spark of redemption igniting in the room. Logan felt the weight lift fractionally, Evan's promise evolving. Not just protection, but partnership against corruption's tide. Shadows lingered, the contractors, the feds. But here, in this firelit truce, loyalty bridged divides, family chosen in the face of institutional rot. They rode out as dawn hinted at the edges of the storm, the ranch fading in the rear view, dossiers secured in waterproof packs. Nora's eyes shone with a mix of awe and fatigue, the wind drying her tears before they fell. The highway stretched ahead, wet and gleaming, a path toward final truths. Logan's grip tightened on the throttle, the engine's roar a vow renewed. For Evan, for Nora, for the honor that bound them through the gathering light. The desert, cleansed by rain, whispered of closures yet to come, one ethical mile at a time. The first rays of morning sun pierced the storm's remnants, scattering diamonds across the rain-slicked highway as Logan's convoy cut through the awakening desert. The air hummed with the fresh bite of ozone and damp earth, the engine's steady growl a counterpoint to the fading thunder rolling westward. Nora clung to the sidecar's edge, her borrowed jacket zipped tight, eyes fixed on the horizon, where the city fringes loomed like a mirage of steel and secrets. The dossiers from Hargrove's ranch weighed heavy in Logan's saddlebag, their contents a powder keg of names, timestamps, and ledgers that traced the betrayal back to its venomous core. Private contractors who'd peddled Evans' unit like expendable stock, pocketing fortunes while lives dissolved into sand. This wasn't a raid, it was a reckoning. The Iron Promises Code distilled to one unyielding truth: honor the fallen by dragging their shadows into the light. Jax rode shotgun, his bike weaving close, the wind whipping at his beard as he signaled a turn onto a service road skirting the urban sprawl. Reyes scouted ahead, his silhouette blurring against the rising heat haze, while two more brothers brought up the rear, a loose diamond formation honed from years of border watches. Nora's voice rose faintly over the roar, carried on the breeze. What if they don't listen, like the suits before? Logan glanced down, his gloved hands steady on the throttle, the medallion's chain cool against his chest. They will, or they'll learn what a promise means when it's all you've got left. Her nod was small, but it anchored him, a thread of Evan's light weaving through the uncertainty. The city approached, low-slung warehouses and chain-link fences giving way to the glass towers of the contractor's headquarters, a monolith of tinted windows and silent security that screamed untouchable power. They parked in the shadow of an overpass, the engines ticking down to quiet pops, the air shifting to the metallic tang of exhaust and urban grit. Foot traffic was sparse this early, delivery trucks rumbling past without a glance at the cluster of leather-clad figures. Logan dismounted, helping Nora down with a gentleness that belied his scarred hands, her boots splashing in shallow puddles left by the night's deluge. Jax slung the dossier pack over his shoulder, his eyes scanning the rooftop cameras with a sniper's focus. Front door suicide, service entrance. Reyes found a blind spot. The plan was simple, surgical: infiltrate the lower levels, access the archives where digital echoes of Evans' files lingered, expose the rot to the light of day before the feds could bury it again. No violence, just the weight of evidence, the moral force of a brother's final words. Slipping through the chain link with bolt cutters borrowed from the club's kit, they moved like ghosts in the dawn's grey veil. Nora's hand in Logan's a small, defiant pulse. The warehouse district smelled of oil and stale rain, echoes of machinery humming from distant vents. Inside the service door, the corridor stretched dim and sterile, fluorescent strips buzzing overhead like wary insects. Security was lax. Contractors relied on intimidation, not vigilance, and Reyes disabled a panel with a quick twist of wires, the lock clicking open with a soft exhale. Nora's breath came quick, but she didn't falter, her presence a quiet fire urging them deeper. Hallways branched into offices, walls lined with servers humming like mechanical hearts. The air cool and laced with the faint ozone of electronics. In the archive room, monitors glowed blue, casting ethereal light on stacks of hard drives and locked cabinets. Jax worked the terminal, his fingers flying over keys, pulling up encrypted logs that matched the letter's timestamps. Here, Evans Op, rerouted funds, the leak signed off by their CEO Harlan Voss, traced to offshore accounts. Logan's jaw tightened as images flickered, grainy footage of a desert ambush, Evans' bike vanishing into dust, the setup as clear as a betrayal's scar. Nora peered at the screen, her face illuminated, whispering, "That's him, Daddy." The moment hung, raw and electric, the hum of the room amplifying the grief they'd all carried in silence. But alarms whispered then, a silent breach alert. Footsteps echoing from the corridor like approaching judgment. They didn't run. Logan gathered the drives, slipping them into the pack, while Jax uploaded fragments to a secure cloud Hargrove had tipped them to. Irrevocable, spreading like ripples in a poisoned well. Voss's office door loomed at the hall's end, glass frosted, but voices seeping through, sharp tones. Radios crackling with fed chatter. Nora tugged Logan's sleeve, her eyes wide but steady. "Tell them the promise." He nodded, pushing the door open, the group stepping into the lion's den bathed in morning light, streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Voss turned from his desk, slick-suited, mid-40s, with eyes like polished obsidian, flanked by two security in ill-fitting blazers, hands hovering near concealed pieces. The room smelled of expensive cologne and fresh coffee, a sterile contrast to the desert's honesty. "Pike!" Voss said, recognition flashing, his voice smooth as oiled gears. "And the relic. Hargrove's slip-up, I assume." No fear, just calculation, the city skyline framing him like a throne. Logan placed the medallion on the desk, its brass glinting defiantly, followed by a printout of the uploads. "Evans' light ends your game. Files out, leaks exposed. No more burying brothers for profit." Jax stepped forward, the dossiers thumping down like a gavel. Nora stood tall beside Logan, her voice cutting the tension like a clear bell. "He trusted them. You broke it." Voss's composure cracked, glancing at the screens as alerts bloomed. News feeds picking up the leak, headlines screaming corruption in high places. Security tensed, but Voss raised a hand, the room's air thickening with the weight of unraveling empires. "This changes nothing. Feds'll spin it." But doubt flickered in his eyes, the first fracture in the facade. Outside, sirens wailed distant. The cavalry arriving too late for containment. Logan met his stare, the medallion a bridge between past and present. It changes everything. For her. For him. As agents burst through the lobby levels below, Voss slumped, the fight draining like rain into cracks. No shots fired, no blood spilled, just truth, poetic and unyielding, toppling the corrupt from their perches. By midday, the convoy rolled free, the city shrinking in the mirrors, Nora's laughter bubbling over the wind for the first time, a sound like sunlight breaking clouds. Back at the clubhouse, the desert bloomed under clearing skies, wildflowers nodding in the breeze scented with creosote and renewal. The club gathered on the porch, drives handed to trusted allies for the long haul of justice, trials, testimonies, the slow grind of accountability. Maria enveloped Nora in a hug, the girl's backpack now unpacked with drawings pinned to the walls, marking her place in the chosen fold. Jax clapped Logan's back, the medallion returned to Nora's neck, a legacy reclaimed. Logan watched her play in the lot, chasing dust motes with a stick, Evan's fire alive in her steps. The promise fulfilled, not in thunder but in quiet victories, corruption cracked, a family mended, honor's echo resounding through the miles. Shadows might linger, but the iron promise rode on, guardians of oaths that outlasted storms. The sun climbed high, painting their world in gold, a testament to redemption's enduring light. Thank you for riding this journey with us, these tales of grit. Loyalty and unbreakable bonds mean the world. If they've touched you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. More stories await, chapter by chapter, straight from the heart of the road.